No one communicates like the president of the United States. Joining us now to discuss, Florida Congressman and gubernatorial candidate Byron Donalds. Congressman, fantastic to see you. We were looking at just regular unleaded gas prices and diesel. And if you look at the national average, it's still $1.30 from the all-time high hit under Joe Biden. But diesel is about 82 cents away. And that hammers business owners, operators, small businesses, truckers. Congressman, there's a direct line from the conflict in the Middle East to the pump here at home. What has been the reaction from voters?
I think, number one, voters are being supportive of President Trump and his efforts to bring finally some semblance of stability, not just in the Middle East, but really to the world order and geopolitics. And everybody does know that the Iranian regime is a theocratic, murderous regime that can't have nuclear weapons. That part's clear. The American people are firmly behind that position and behind President Trump. When it comes to the Strait of Hormuz, I mean, yes, nobody wants to see gas prices go up. And I think what the president was talking about in particular today, with potentially some other countries coming in to help stabilize the Strait of Hormuz, that will go a long way to actually seeing oil futures actually decrease over the next week or so, which then is something that will kind of get flushed out in the wash when it comes to diesel prices in particular, but then also regular unleaded gas.
Congressman, let me ask you about that. There's a couple countries who sound like they might help out a little bit, maybe France, maybe the UK. There's a lot of them who are saying no thank you. Japan's on that list. Australia's on the list. Germany is the hardest no out there right now. All of them depend on oil coming out of that strait. Does it matter that so much of the world doesn't seem to want to help out with this right now?
Well, I think, first of all, with some of these leaders, they need to wake up and get real. It's really unfortunate to see. I think the president talked a little bit about that from the Oval Office earlier today. These are nations who have for decades relied on the beneficence of America to help bring security to their nations. And so they have a responsibility, in my view, to now step up and make sure that at a minimum, the Strait of Hormuz is protected for global commerce. This is something that's not new for the United States Navy in particular. We have a history of patrolling some of the seas around the globe to make sure that shipping lanes are open so that global commerce can continue to run smoothly, even if you have these military conflicts that do prop up from time to time. So I think these leaders need to really, get their heads out of their ass, get real, and get out there and help, because this actually helps their countries as well, not just the United States. But I also think that if you look at what's going on in Iran, some of the reports that the president and his team are putting out with respect to the amount of munitions, the amount of equipment that the Iranians are left with, you could also see where this conflict does begin to wind down in short order. And I think that'll have a very healthy impact on global oil prices and gas prices in the United States.
Yes, as Bob McNally of Rapidan said, the main show is the degradation of Iran's ability to threaten ships. By the time we start escorting, we will have largely accomplished the more important military mission. But let's take it back home, talk about the Save America Act. Congressman, the Senate is expected to begin debate on it tomorrow. And Senator Eric Schmitt is looking to add a trio of amendments, one of those being a proposal to ban gender transition procedures for minors, also ban biological males from women's sports. Here's what President Trump said about the bill earlier in the Oval Office. Listen.
I think they say that's an 80% issue. I think they're 99% issues. I think it hurts the Democrats to vote against it, because I'm going to instruct all the Republicans to say that so-and-so that they're running against voted against the saving of our children from transgender mutilation, right? That's pretty unpopular. They want men and women sports. That's pretty unpopular. They want voter ID, but the Democrats don't.
Where do we go from here, Congressman? How do you see it?
Well, first, I agree with Senator Schmitt and his amendments that he wants to add to the bill. Those are common sense solutions, common sense things that the American people all support. The Senate should pass all of them. Unfortunately, what I think we're going to see is two things. One, you're going to see Senate Republicans, a handful, not all, but a handful, refuse to do what is necessary to save the country. They're too focused, in my opinion, on trying to save Senate procedure than saving our elections for the future of this country. The second thing is what we already know. Democrats do not care about securing our elections. They don't want voter ID. They don't want to protect young girls in sports, and they don't want to protect the puberty of America's children. So once again, you're going to see Democrats side with the radical fringe of people in the United States against a broad will of Americans, whether they're Republicans or Democrats, whether they're white or black, whether they're rich or poor. The Democrats do not support common sense policy. And that's the biggest problem we have in Washington, D.C. today.
Congressman Byron Donalds, always good to see you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Congressman.